Awesome. Hello, everyone. It is 6 p.m., so we're going to go ahead and get started on our first generation student webinar. First, I want to thank everyone for joining today and taking time this next hour to really learn more about what we provide and services for you and making sure that you feel support, especially as you're going through not only your time at Montana State, but in the future, what we can look forward to in helping you with that, as well as knowing how to advocate for yourself and different things like that. So as we kind of get started, my name is Charlie, and I'm going to go ahead and switch. Oh, actually, I lied. Before we get to that, if you are on any device where maybe you are having troubles connecting to the audio, we have a few different numbers here that you can access, and then the access code as well. So make sure to see and get joined in, making sure that you have all of those things. If you have any troubles too and lose connection later on, maybe you're traveling somewhere and you're listening on the phone or something, we also record all of our webinars. So we'll go ahead, and this is recorded, and we'll get that posted tomorrow so that you can go back, or maybe if you need to access some information later on that you didn't quite get this evening, you can access that through our webinars on our admissions webpage as well. So now we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Charlie Almer. I'm your presenter this evening. I work as an admissions counselor at Montana State, and I'm actually currently out traveling. I'm in Billings, Montana, but I am just so passionate about being a first generation student, and I actually have a couple of friends that are tagging along kind of towards the end to kind of go over some of those services as well. Mackenzie Spence is joining us. With all of that being said, one thing that I do request out of you guys, I actually have a couple of things. First and foremost, as you start having questions throughout this webinar, at the bottom of our chat box, there's 3 dots. If you go over there and go into that, you'll be able to ask questions in there where you can get direct answers through the Q&A portion in there from our counselors. If you throw things in the chat box, it's really hard to lose those questions and get them answered. So if you can go ahead, go to the 3 dots at the bottom of your screen and go to the Q&A. Please make sure to throw in where you're from, and then we'll have our counselors that are on standby say hello to you, welcome you in, just so that we can get those questions answered as we get going through. So probably my favorite picture that you can see on this first slide is me at my undergrad graduation. I graduated from MSU Billings in fall of 2021 with a degree in criminal justice, psychology, and sociology. So I'm happily waving to my family that was out in the stands cheering for me. So that was a pretty pivotal moment in my life, being a first generation student. So I'm really excited to be here, be your host, and kind of go over those different opportunities that we can offer at Montana State so that you make sure that you have the success that you need and that you want as well. So if you have any questions kind of later on and are mulling it over through the evening, anything like that, I have my contact information on here so that you can reach out to me. It is charlene.almer@montana.edu for email. If you want to give me a direct call on my line, it's 406-994-2202. But of course, you're always welcome to give us a call anywhere in the admissions office. I also have the TRIO link on here too, because this is a huge support service program that I was able to be a part of when I was in school. And I definitely got my brother to be a part of it too. And so you'll hear a little bit more about TRIO SSS as well. So what we're looking at today is we're going to go over what it looks like to be a first generation student and how does Montana State identify our first generation students. We're also going to go over just in the general admissions timeline so that you really know and we can get down into the nitty gritty of making sure that you have everything prepared that you need for Montana State as you're going through your admissions process. And then probably one of the most important things too is making sure that we get you access to scholarships and different opportunities, that you can make school more affordable, different things like that. Also TRIO as well. We'll also hear a little bit about our First Generation Students Association. And then at the very end, I'm going to work with Mackenzie in answering some questions about some of those frequently asked questions about being a first generation student, using those questions that you guys or responses that you gave us on the questions when you were signing up for it. So let's get into it. First and foremost, I really want to focus on how Montana State is a land grant institution, and what our focus is in that. Being a land grant institution is really important, because what that means is that we were founded, the main title that goes with it is making college accessible for the working sons and daughters of Montanans, especially through higher education. So what this means is that when you come to Montana State, we have the opportunity from students of very many different backgrounds, whatever it may be that you are in, coming together in one area and making not only college accessible for you, but also something that you can work through and have that support through. All of that being said, we are also not only the land grant institution, but also a huge research institution, specifically for our undergraduate students, but also having that opportunity to go outside if you're looking for grad programs or doctorate programs, so on and so forth. So we have a pretty unique combination of different areas that you might be looking at getting associated with. So if you're not 100% sure what you're kind of wanting to go into, that's totally okay. That's our job, is to help you figure that out as not only admissions counselors, but if you're coming in undecided your freshman year, we're here to help you. You have your advisors through university studies who can help you figure out, really go in depth with not only who you are, but what's really going to help you through that process as you're going through your 4 years and seeing, okay, this is exactly when I want to commit my major in. And then on top of that, getting the hands-on opportunity with research and hands-on opportunity outside with internships, so on and so forth. So at Montana State, probably the most important thing is making sure that you understand that you're a first generation student. So at MSU, we identify or classify our students as first generations if their parents or legal guardians do not have a completed 4-year degree program. So if one of them has one, unfortunately, you are not considered a 4-year program, and that's from anywhere, international or within the United States. But if your parents do not have a 4-year completed program, you are classified as a first generation student at Montana State. So for those of you from all over the world, we're very excited to have you joining us and potentially being that first generation student and breaking a process, breaking a cycle in the best way possible. So kind of going into what you should expect and feel prepared for as you're starting at Montana State is going through that admissions timeline, making sure that you have everything that you need prepared. Because if you're anything like me, I started the college decision pretty late. I was pretty adamant on not going to college in the first place. I had a little pushing from my dad, and I was like, okay, maybe I want to do it. And so that's kind of how that admissions process and the college aspect started for me. So this is something that I'm really passionate about. This is why I love my job, because I went through everything alone. I didn't have a lot of support. And so I'm really thankful that you guys are all on here, not only to figure out what that process looks like at Montana State, to get help from me and Mackenzie and the rest of the admissions team, but also being proactive for yourself. So going into that admissions timeline, the most important thing, first and foremost, as you're looking at Montana State specifically, is we want to make sure that we get you applied to Montana State. Specifically for MSU, we do not have a specific deadline that you have to submit your application by. Some schools do have deadlines though. So depending on where you're looking at applying to, if you're looking at us and maybe some other institutions, you'll want to make sure that you see that application deadline. But again, for Montana State, we do not have that. We have rolling admissions. So just make sure that you research those pieces with each of the schools that you're applying to. Also, some other things is making sure that you have your test scores if you're taking or took an SAT or SAT. as well as transcripts. Some schools require those right out of the bat. For Montana State, something that I'm very thankful for is when it comes to transcripts, we don't want that transcript until it's finalized when you're done with your high school career, and that has to get sent directly from your office, your high school's office, whether it's a registrar or your counselor, whoever it is. We want them to send it directly to us. There can be no in-between person because that's not considered official anymore. So make sure when you graduate, you go to your registrar, your college or high school counselor, college and career advisor, whoever might have that transcript, and have them send it directly to us. If you're at least coming to Montana State, thinking about it, have that accepted admissions with us. Something that's also unique with us too, for the last couple years anyways, we have not required ACT or SAT scores. However, some schools do require that. So if you're applying to certain schools, definitely, again, make sure to research if they're required out of your acceptance, especially for scholarship purposes. Those are really important. We will take them, and it'll help us through the process of making sure that we can place you in those right math and writing courses as you're starting at Montana State. But with all that being said, it's not required. Your GPA is what's the most important to us as of this year. So definitely make sure to work with your counselors in getting a most significant up-to-date GPA. And that's because on your admissions, when you put your GPA down, you're automatically considered for award with that GPA standing. And all of those are available online if you want to see the tiers based on those GPAs for our in-state and out-of-state students. But those are very important to have. If you are going to send us your test scores for those placements, I do have our ACT and SAT codes attached here. Our ACT code is 2420 to get those sent over to us. And then our SAT school code to get the score sent over to us is 4488. That's 4,488. So as you're going through those different processes, that's your first step, is one, getting accepted to Montana State, making sure we have all of those things that we need for you and prepared through that admissions process. Something else that you'll also have to consider after your admissions and acceptance to Montana State is, where are you going to live at MSU's campus or potentially another campus, right? So the next thing that's usually in line for a lot of schools is making sure that you apply for housing. Now with Montana State, our applications, there's a pretty nice synonymous timeline to work for you. Our main application on our website opens up July 1st, so you could apply as soon as July 1st. Then next is our housing application, and that opens up October 1st for our students. So at every institution, they also have different rules about what housing is like there. At Montana State specifically, only our freshmen are required to live in the residence halls. So with that, there is an application process that goes with that. As of this year, we are now on a lottery system with our housing application. So what that means for students, and something that I really appreciate that we have moved to, especially if you're applying to multiple different colleges and maybe looking at that housing application, is it's making applying for housing and getting what you want a little bit more equivalent, especially because with our housing application, the only deposit that we're looking from you out of Montana State right out of the bat is for that housing application, and that's a $300 deposit. $300 is a lot of money to put down on, especially if you're looking at multiple different schools, and that's just our price for it. That doesn't include what other schools may have. So I'm very proud to have this lottery system to make it more accessible for students, especially as you're going through the process of maybe looking at multiple other schools. But applying for housing is that second step for us, making sure that we have that done, kind of proceeds into what is also available for you next, such as scholarships, which we'll get into in just a second. So these are the first two steps, is applying for admissions and applying for housing if you're pretty committed to MSU. The next one And I'll kind of get back to that FAFSA, but is applying for scholarships. Like I said, your GPA is the most important piece at Montana State. And that's because, like I said, you're automatically considered for award, either called the Premier Award for our in-state students or the Achievement Award for our out-of-state students based on that GPA. So that's a merit-based award. There's also lots of different merit-based awards available for our in-state and out-of-state students, such as the Presidential or the WUI. There's also other scholarships too, such as departmental scholarships and general scholarships through the CAT scholarship portal, which, by the way, if you are accepted and a senior, it is now open. So I highly, highly, highly recommend going in and applying for it, as well as maybe tuition waivers to apply to, or at least ask for, to see if they have those options for you as a student, right? So please check those things out. It's very easy to get to the scholarship website on the montana.edu website, the main Montana State website. So if you go to montana.edu, at the top, there's a couple different search bars. One of them, if you go into the main search bar, if you type in scholarships, boom, there it is right there for you. So you can go through those different scholarship opportunities that are available for you. Going back to FAFSA, it is something that is not required out of Montana State, but highly recommended. As someone who applied for it for the first time, and 2017 is when I applied for FAFSA the first time when I graduated from high school, I can tell you it is leaps and bounds significantly different than the first time I do it. Anytime I talk to students, I always say the first time I applied for it in 2017, it took me about 3 hours. I had a very difficult time. My dad was with me. We had some colorful language with each other as we were going through it. But it's something that had to get done so that I can make sure that I can make school more affordable because of the grant opportunities, different scholarships, so on and so forth. What I can tell you is I'm now in my master's program, and I filled it out this last year, and it took me 20 minutes. 20 minutes over 3 hours, sure, I'll take the 20 minutes. Significantly easier. You get to attach everything that you need, and it automatically just changes everything over if you create like a database with the IRS, so on and so forth, and it does all of the work for you. So 20 minutes, if you've got that, I think everyone traditionally has 20 minutes. It's easier to do it and see that maybe you didn't get something versus not doing it and potentially have gotten thousands of dollars of grant money, quote unquote free money, right? So I highly recommend applying for FAFSA since it only takes 20 minutes. See what they have. As of right now, MSU's priority date is February 1st. As of this year, there is an expected open date of December 1st, kind of following the big overhaul that happened last year. And that's all we know. If anything changes, we'll definitely make sure to let you guys know through some lovely emails. But as of right now, like I said, all we know is December 1st is when it's supposed to open, and our priority deadline is February 1st. Now, I do want to say that if your FAFSA, if you don't get that completed by February 1st with our priority date, it doesn't mean that we're not going to take it. It just means that if you have it in by that priority date, you'll hear back about financial aid from Montana State, from the Office of Financial Aid, sooner rather than later. So if you're looking for that opportunity, please apply for that sooner rather than later. And I will be the first to be a hypocrite on that. Like I said, the first time that I applied, I didn't even know there was anything called the FAFSA or the free application for federal student aid. And the first time I ever applied for FAFSA, it was legitimately 2 weeks before school. So please do not do what I did. I'll be the biggest hypocrite in this sense. Apply for it sooner rather than later. It saves a lot of heartache, and it also gives you opportunity to more grant money that's available faster. So going down to the last bullet point, since we kind of talked about some scholarships, which we'll also go into a little bit later, is also attending an orientation session when you're accepted to Montana State. At MSU, we hold 4 different orientation sessions for our fall incoming students, and then we have one available for our students during the spring. So if you're incoming for the spring session, you'll have that available. Orientations at Montana State are probably some of my favorite days days outside of MSU Fridays, because it's an opportunity, like you can see on here, not only to meet with other students and spend time on campus and really figure out the heart of campus before starting school, but you also get to meet with your advisor. You get to meet with not only the admissions teams, but lots of other teams on campus that are rooting for your success and want to be there to help you. So I highly recommend signing up for them. There's usually 2 available in June, 1 in July, and 1 in August that coincides with move-in weekend. So especially if you're coming from an out-of-state state and making that a little bit more affordable for you and just doing one trip, we have those options available for you. You're also able to register for your classes during your orientation sessions. Now, for my students that are going to the last orientation session, there is some pre-registration for classes that happens to you, but that happens for you by our orientation team, and your advisors. However, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to get into the Intro to Psychology Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes. What's really nice is that our orientation team has spent a lot of time going through and perfecting that program for you. So they save classes for students in each section so that there's an equivalent amount of opportunity for students to get into those classes. So kind of look at it that way. Those as you're kind of going through the process and considering maybe coming to MSU, signing up for an orientation is not going to make you committed to Montana State. Just keep in mind, once you're accepted, everything that you do with MSU is non-committal and non-binding. There is no, what I say, blood oath that comes with coming to Montana State. So accept all of the scholarships, accept every bit of ounce of help that we can give you. Apply for scholarships, accept those scholarships, apply for orientation, come to an orientation, whatever it may be. All of it is non-committal and non-binding. Like I said, we're here to work with you to make sure that you feel prepared, not only for college at Montana State, but also just overall in general with school, making sure that this is the right next step for you. So make sure that you not only are applying for FAFSA scholarships, Montana State, I hear it's a pretty good place, but also doing those orientation sessions, reaching out to us if you need help, reaching out to me if you have questions about whatever it is that you may have. So going into some of the specific dates and deadlines, kind of how I talked about a little bit earlier. So really important ones is one, applying for housing. So that if you are a senior, it is open as of this October 1st. Like I said, we did move to a lottery system. So what this looks like for our students is the first round of students who apply for housing with that $300 deposit between October 1st and January 31st are going to be given their housing assignment in mid-April. That housing assignment is going to go to the email that you signed up with Montana State University in. And so if this is a pro tip piece of advice too. If you signed up with your email, maybe registered for your school or the current institution that you're at, you're going to want to make sure to get that changed over to a personal Gmail. If you have a school like personal Gmail, anything like that, you'll want to get that changed, because as soon as you leave that institution, whether it's high school, if you're a transfer student, whatever it may be, you'll lose that email. And we want to make sure that we can keep you up to date with everything that's happening at Montana State. And also outside of that, any information that your advisor may be contacting you about, if that's the main source that we have for your email and communication, we want to make sure that's up to date so that you're getting everything correctly on there. So you'll find out about the first round of housing statuses in mid-April. If you apply after that January 31st deadline for the first round, they're going to start sending out monthly basis of what that housing status is for you. So if you apply, say, February 2nd, for example, you'll hear back in mid-May about where you're going to be placed for housing, so on and so forth. Something that's new this year that I also thought was pretty awesome was the refund policy. In the past, it used to be just $100 refund up until March 1st. However, Housing did some thinking along with that lottery system and made some pretty good steps. So as of this year, refunds with Montana State, if you end up, withdrawing from MSU, canceling your housing, all of that, you have the opportunity to receive a refund of up to $200 if you do that before March 1st. If you find out that maybe Montana State isn't your place, maybe something came up, maybe you decided that you need to take like a gap semester or gap year, something like that, you can keep that up until the next year. However, if you're like, no, I just need to, withdraw and figure some things out, that's totally fine. Up until March 1st, you have the opportunity to get the $200 refunded. If you cancel or withdraw your admissions from Montana State between March 1st through May 1st, you're entitled up to $100 refund. So you have the opportunity to get that a certain amount, a certain percentage out of that refund back, which is super awesome. If you do it after May 1st, unfortunately, you have lost out on that money. So there will be no refunds that come with that. So if you're looking for those opportunities, keep those dates in mind for sure. And there's also lots of communication going out about housing too in your emails. So keep track of that. If you respond to any of those emails, just know that it goes to real people, so we can help you make sure that we can get those answers, those questions answered for you. Kind of alongside that, really important too, because this is legitimately just around the corner, is that presidential scholarship. If you are thinking about applying for that presidential award and maybe haven't done that yet, or maybe you're not 100% committed, but you have the opportunity to apply for a pretty significant scholarship, that presidential award is that one. It's the closest one we have to a full ride at Montana State. It covers your entire tuition, and then it gives you up to $4,000 of a housing stipend, which traditionally covers about a third of housing. So with all that being said, there is a separate application for that, and you can find that in the General CAT Scholarship portal. That one is due this December 6th. It is the first Friday of December. For those of you that are joining in that maybe you are juniors or sophomores, so on and so forth, keep in mind that the presidential scholarship is always due the first Friday of December every single year. So I can't tell you what the next one is, but what I can tell you is that for my seniors this year that maybe are interested in applying for it, everything that you might be looking for about the questions, so on and so forth, is available if you go to the General CAT Scholarship portal and type in presidential in the search bar. It'll pop up. It has all the essays that go with it, the amount of letters of recommendation, which is only 2, and what those questions may have with you, okay? In order to apply for it, you will need a 3.7 GPA or higher. Weighted or unweighted, it does not matter with Montana State. We just recommend whichever is higher. So that's also important to know for the Premier Award or the Achievement Award. But that Presidential Award, if you have a 3.7 or higher, you do have the ability to apply for it. Like I said, it is the most competitive scholarship we have at Montana State. So for us, what that looks like is 24 students end up getting this award. 50 are invited for an interview. Out of that 50, 24 are actually awarded that scholarship. And like I said, we are non-committal and non-binding, so make sure to do all of those things. There's also the WUI scholarship too. If you are a senior as of this year and applying for the WUI award, that is due January 6th. So there's about a month difference. So if you apply for the presidential and the WUI scholarship, those are a month apart. So prioritize the presidential for right now and then do the WUI after if you have not done those yet. If you get multiple awards, say you were to get, especially for my out-of-state students, if you applied for the presidential and you were part of the WUI system and had the Achievement Award, it's really, really, really important to know that with Montana State, merit awards are not stackable on each other. You can only get one of them with MSU. And what we do on our side is you accept everything. We're going to go in with our Office of Financial Aid, and they're automatically going to take away the lowest awards that you've been given. So say that you were given the presidential, the WUI, and the Achievement Award. We're going to take away the WUI and we're going to take away the Achievement Award because you have a full tuition waiver and a housing stipend. So we assume you want that one. And so we'll leave that one on there for you, okay? Going into a couple of other things too. So for my in-state and out-of-state students, specifically for the application, for our in-state students, our application is free for you guys, whether you do it through Apply Montana, if you do it through our website. Something that is available for both of those, for both our in-state and out-of-state students, is when you do that application for Montana State, you can indicate on there that you're a first-generation student. And so that's something that's really awesome, especially as you start applying for general CAT scholarships. For our in-state students, what this does is it automatically triggers what's called our Treasure State Scholarship Award, which we'll go into in just a little bit. For our out-of-state students, there is an application fee of $38 for our main application. And some good news is that we were put on the Common App this year. So if you are interested in applying to Montana State, you can apply through the Common App. So for juniors, again, if that's something that you'll apply to, you have that opportunity. I will say our application on our website is significantly easier. If you got 20 minutes to do the application, I can promise you the 3 hardest questions on our main application is if you know your social security number, your high school GPA, weighted or unweighted, or if you completed a college preparatory course requirement, which basically if you plan on graduating from high school, you should select yes on. If you don't have the funds to do that $38 for the application, we do have a fee deferral request form, which I have the link on here so you can snap a picture of that if you want, so that you can access that, or again, email me or the admissions office and we can send you the link for that as well. So going into the first generation scholarships, like I said, for our in-state students, you have the access to the Treasure State scholarships. And this is for students who self-identify as first generation, again, meaning your parents do not have a 4-year bachelor's degree on your application. This is a $1,500 per year scholarship that's automatically renewable every single year. And something that's really awesome is that it's stackable with merit or need-based aid. So you are able to get that on top of the other awards that you may be getting. This is 2 years. This is 2 years old. So it was very new last year. It's something that was fought really hard for, especially thanks to Mackenzie Spence and Alicia Downs, who are also, like I said, in this, and we'll be talking a little bit later. So we're just very thankful to have this, and we're making little strides to make this more affordable and a little bit easier for our students that are first generation. So another award is the Full Circle Award, which comes with being a Hillman Scholar. You do need at least a 2.5 high school GPA or higher and be from a rural town in Montana, which you can see has a population of 3,000 or less. Woot woot for my rural towns. I'm from Wolf Point, Montana, about 2,500 people from there. Super exciting. And then also being a first generation student, as well as a first time incoming freshman student. Some other scholarship places that you can look for more awards is scholarships.com and fastwebs.com, as well as bolt.org. All of these are outside scholarship portals that are not directly connected with Montana State, but MSU takes all outside scholarships as long as it does not go to a directly named university. So if you get something that says for Jane Doe for attending Arizona State University, unfortunately, we can't take that because it has ASU's information on there. So what's really nice with this portal is you can go in and type in first generation scholarship. You can type in scholarships for students that are 6 foot and above. You can type in scholarships for students of Hispanic descent, so on and so forth. And they bring up a whole list. And what's really nice is I was looking through these, especially as a master's student, and they have a lot available for our students on there, for a majority for sure with our undergraduate students, but also for first generation students. So I really, really recommend snapping a picture also of this or writing them down so that you can access those and see what you could potentially get out of them, which is super awesome. And here's where I said you might need another phone, or if you're on a computer using your phone to scan. We have a few different scholar programs. So I brought up the Hillemans a little bit earlier. This is for in-state students. You have to be Pell eligible, which would be said on FAFSA. And it's also, again, for those new first-time graduated incoming freshmen. So if you want to learn more about that award, I highly recommend going in there. There's also the McNair Scholar Program, which is for low income and first generation students or underrepresented group students. So this is available for everyone. This cohort is super awesome. If you're interested in maybe learning a little bit more, again, scan the QR code. It's on my left. So you can scan that and learn a little bit more about the program and seeing what that's like for you. Okay, with all of that being said, I'm going to pass it on over to Mackenzie Spence so that she can kind of get into what TRIO Student Support Services is like for you, First Generation Student Association, so on and so forth. So I'll pass it on over to Mackenzie.
Perfect. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Mackenzie Spence. I am the program coordinator for the TRIO Student Support Service office. I'm a first-generation Bobcat, and I also work as a business operations manager for McNair Scholars as well. McNair, just so you know, is for upperclassmen students, so it's going to be students that have completed 60 or more university credits, and its main focus is to get students into graduate school. So if you're interested in research and graduate school, definitely check out McNair Scholars. Looking into it now for when you are ready to kind of get into those higher credit and higher level classes. I am originally from Alberton, Montana, so I see that we have some Missoula friends in here, which is really exciting. Like Charlie, Alberton's a very small town. It's a town of 400 people, so definitely rural raised. I came to Montana State University in 2017, got my bachelor's of science in sociology, focus in criminology, and a minor in German. I also graduated from the Honors College here as well. Ended up going to the University of Montana for my Master's of Education in International Educational Leadership. And now I am back in school getting my PhD in adult and higher ed here at Montana State. So I am a professional student. It's pretty much what's going on. But to go into kind of what we do for TRIO SSS. So we are a student support program. SSS stands for Student Support Services. So we are a federally funded, grant-funded program through the Federal Department of Education. Here at MSU, we are under the College of Education, Health, and Human Development, with our main goals being to increase retention rates of our students, increase graduation rates, and help them utilize campus resources. We're able to serve 140 students an academic year, which means that we're able to bring in anywhere from 40 to 60 students per academic year, depending on how many of our students graduate the fall and spring before we bring in our new cohort. With that, once you apply into our TRIO Student Support Service program and you're accepted, you are in that until you graduate, whether it takes you 2 years, 10 years, we're here for you until you get to commencement and you're able to walk across the stage. Next slide, please. Perfect. So just a couple of benefits that we have of our student support service. So one of them is one-on-one advising. We have a full-time retention specialist here in our office named Meredith, and she meets with all of our students one-on-one and talks about how our class is going. Is there anything we can do to support you in maybe classes you're struggling with? How can we get you resources? But also things like, how is it living with a roommate, maybe for the first time ever? How is that going? Are you able to find a job on or off campus? How can we support you both in the classroom and out of the classroom? We also offer 10 hours of free tutoring to every single scholar that's in our program through Smarty Cats Tutoring here on campus. We have something called the Burtick Book Program. So this is a textbook borrowing program that we are able to offer students textbooks that they then return at the end of the semester, and we're able to build our library. Right now, we're at right around 500 textbooks in our library, and this program started just a couple years ago, so we're definitely still growing. We also focus a lot on undergraduate research opportunities, so partnering with the McNair Scholars Program and the Undergraduate Scholars Program to get students into research, regardless of what field they're interested in. For me, I'm a first-generation college student. I graduated with my degree in sociology, like I said before. I did not know that like research wasn't just people in white lab coats looking at microscopes. So that was something that I actually learned after I came to college. So getting students into those research opportunities, regardless of their major. We do a lot of community building activities. So every single week we do breakfasts in our office. Tomorrow we're actually having an oatmeal bar here in our office. We also do monthly community events as well. We just had a Halloween party where we watched a Halloween movie and painted pumpkins and that kind of stuff. This month we're doing a rec night. So we rent out the recreation area and the sub and do bowling and pool. We have a lot of unique experiences as well. Some of these look like having kind of close-knit lunches with different people on campus, such as the provost. We've also done whitewater rafting, cross-country skiing, hiking, just kind of like spending time around town. Most recently, we did a tunnel tour here on campus. So we got to go in the tunnels underneath campus and see how those worked and how it kind of heated the entire campus and provided power. Leadership and skill building, we are always offering leadership opportunities and skill opportunities for our students. We have all of our students have early registration. So all of our students after your first semester get to register for classes the first day that juniors get to register. So if you're a freshman and you're registering the first day that juniors get to register, you're more likely to get those classes that you really want to get into. Also at the time you want to get into as well. Maybe you're not an 8 a.m. person. I'm not. You're able to get maybe into those 9, 10, 11 o'clock classes instead. We have resources in our office, tablets, supplies, free printing, coffee, snacks, kind of a whole host of things here, as well as a silent study space and a group study space. And then we really push access to the Allen Yarnell Center for Student Success for our students as well. All right, just some accomplishments that we have. So like I said, we have 140 TRIO scholars in academic year. In 22-23, we were able to welcome in 50 new scholars. And our persistence rate from fall to fall was 84%. Our good academic standing rate, which just means above a 2.5, is 91%. And then we have a 6-year graduation rate of 87%, which are all higher than the kind of general MSU numbers as well. All right, so how to apply, the important part. So our application is online. It's montana.edu/TRIO-SSS. And it will open in January of 2025 for students to come into our cohort in August, fall of 2025. If you are interested and you want to be updated on when our application goes live on January 1st, there is an interest form on our website, montana.edu/TRIO-SSS. On the left-hand side, it'll say interest form. Click on that, fill out your name and your email, and I'll shoot you an email as soon as that opens. So eligibility, you do have to be a full-time student. So that means 12 or more credits a semester. You have to be an undergraduate student. Unfortunately, this opportunity is not available for 2-year students at Gallatin College or students in graduate programs. And then you have to have at least one of the following. So you have to be a first-generation college student and or Pell eligible or eligible for federal assistance, which you'll find out through the FAFSA, and or have a documented disability and working with disability services here on campus. All right, next slide. Perfect. I'm gonna actually pass this on over to Alicia because I always forget something about this. So I'll pass this on over to Alicia to talk about Montana State being a first-gen forward institution.
Hello, my name is Alicia Downs, and I am a member of the First Generation Committee here on the MSU campus. I am also a First Gen Bobcat graduate, so happy to be here talking with everybody today. Over the past year, Mackenzie and myself, along with our Vice President of Student Success, Dr. Steve Swinford, have been working towards a First Gen Forward designation, which is an organization that is, it used to be affiliated with the NASPA program and recently broke off and became its own 504 this year. And basically, this is a national program where universities and colleges across the nation participate and reaffirm their commitment to advancing student success initiatives for first-gen students and that demographic specifically. As Mackenzie said, 18% of undergraduate students at MSU are first generation, and those are just the students that are self-reporting because some students aren't always wanting to claim their first generation status for whatever reason. We were accepted into the network last year and we did some professional development. And this year we were awarded the First Gen Forward designation. And we are the first institution in the state of Montana to be awarded this designation. So we're really, really excited about that. We're focusing on creating access to resources and programming to support our first gen students, not only to get you here and get you started, but also to support you while you're here. We are continuing this work with we just went through another goal setting exercise to continue this work to be a first gen forward institution. And we're really excited about that. I did see there was a question in the chat a little while ago about whether or not there were scholarships for out of state first gen students. And unfortunately, they do not exist now. But that is something that this First Gen Forward working group, as well as our first generation committee, is working towards being inclusive of our out-of-state students as well. And we do have a first generation student association on campus. They were actually awarded the Student Organization of the Year last year in 2023. So there are plenty of resources on our campus to help help with these student success initiatives. And we're super excited about the prospect of having you all join us. Thank you.
All right, so just some of our successes that we have had in the last couple of years. So each year we do the National First Generation College Celebration, which is actually happening right now. This is a celebration that is on November 8th annually, nationally. Here at Montana State, we kind of stretched that out to about a week and a half instead of one day because we just love celebrating first-gen students. So we do this again every year in November. It's kind of a slew of activities and events for first-gen students just to celebrate them, as well as show them what resources are available to them. We last spring had our first annual first generation graduation celebration where we got to kind of celebrate our graduating first generation students and offer them cords, which I actually have one right here, that they get to wear at commencement, to walk across the stage to show that they're first gen and they completed their degree. We handed out over 200 cords in the spring, and then we are actively handing them out now for our December graduates. Something that's coming up is our inaugural First Gen Trailblazers Leadership Cohort. So this is in partnership with the Leadership Institute here on campus. And it is a cohort of first generation students that want leadership development. And it's 8 hours of leadership training, 100% free for students. So we'll see how that goes in the spring, but it's something that we're really excited about starting and hopefully doing annually in the spring. We're working on faculty and staff professional development to make sure that they are aware of first generation students and how they can make their spaces more inclusive to first gen students, removing hidden curriculum from their language. We also have an AmeriCorps student worker. So this is a student that is solely focused on first generation kind of things on campus. She is graduating, so we're heartbroken about that, but that means that we're able to bring another student in to fill that role next year. So if you're interested, my contact information I think is on the next slide, but shoot me an email, let me know. And then the last two things that we have here is the Students Association, which there's a slide on that I'll talk about, and then what Alicia just talked about with that national designation that the university does have starting this fall. So yeah, the next slide is my contact information. My email is just mackenzie.spence@montana.edu. That phone number is the one that's just on my desk. I'm rarely at my desk, so sending me an email might be better for both you and me to get you a response. I am located in Reed Hall, room 314A. So if you are interested or if you're on campus and you want to come say hello, I love talking if you can't tell. And then the two websites that are kind of important here. The one is the TRIO Student Support Service website where you can find the application, the interest form, information on that kind of stuff. As well as we have a First Gen website. So if you're interested in looking at that, there's resources. There's actually a scholarship list under the resource tab on montana.edu/firstgen. And this is actually, it's very clunky, so forgive me for that, but it's actually a spreadsheet of scholarships, not just for first gen students, but also for underrepresented students as well. And I update that weekly with new scholarships, new due dates, remove ones, well, not remove, but move them down if they're closed, move them up if they're open. So if you're looking for scholarships, I would definitely take a look at that as well. All right, and then the Students Association, unfortunately, our AmeriCorps worker, Natalie, is not able to join us. She's also the president and co-founder of the Students Association here. But I told her I would take over her kind of spiel here. It's pretty quick. So the mission of the First Generation Students Association is to provide a welcoming environment through planned and coordinated activities and programs to offer first generation students positive and high impact experiences and support. So they do a lot of workshops, they do a lot of events, they meet weekly here on campus, and it's just a space where you can build community, but also get professional development and meet other first generation students here on campus. If you are interested or you want to hear more about the organization, they're very active on social media, specifically Instagram, but they are also very responsive in their emails as well. So if you have questions about the Students Association, about what they do, who they are, anything like that, feel free to send them an email to firstgens.montanastate@gmail.com. And Natalie or one of her other leadership team members will get back to you rather quickly. Perfect. Yeah. And then we just have information on staying in touch here. So again, Trio SSS, we're located in Reed Hall if you're on campus and ever want to come visit. That's the First Gen link. And then the Allen Yarnell Center for Student Success is also a fabulous resource for first gen students.
Awesome. And then we also have the Office of Admissions. So if you ever need to get in contact with any of us in the office, just to make sure that we can get you started, and then get Mackenzie and potentially Alicia involved in making sure that you have that success at MSU, kind of what we've been talking about over this last course of an hour, basically. Definitely feel free to reach out. All right, now we're going to go ahead and go into our live Q&A. So I'm going to have Mac and Alicia kind of stay on in these next couple of minutes. You guys were able, when you were signing up for this webinar, to put some questions in. There was a lot of questions that regarded about scholarship opportunity, how to do your applications, so on and so forth. So we're going to get into that. But one of my questions that I really wanted to ask, especially Mac, and Alicia, is what was something that was the most impactful for you with Montana State in supporting you as a first generation student? And I'll kind of pass it to whoever, but making sure that you had that support, or maybe it was someone who really encouraged you through that process. So.
Yeah, so like I said, I came from a town of 400. So when I moved into the North Hedges dorms, there were more people on my residence hall floor than in my entire high school. And there was more people in that dorm building than in my entire town. So when I came to campus, there was 15,000 undergraduate students, maybe a little bit less. Now, I'm getting my numbers mixed up, but one thing that I did was I was very anxious, very nervous. I didn't really know what to expect. But I took advantage of MSU Debut. And through MSU Debut, just so you know what that is, it's kind of a conglomeration of events for all incoming students. that includes like a concert, Catapalooza, which is a huge thing all over campus with all the resources. There's a welcome barbecue. There was the M photo where you got to get a yellow shirt and go out and like make a giant M on the football field and get a picture taken. And this really like helped me feel welcome to campus. And through this, I actually met my still two best friends, Devin and Alex, who just so happened to live 2 doors down from me. And we hit it off really, really quick. And without MSU debut, and also like my RA having floor time with us, I don't know if I would have actually ever went and knocked on their door to introduce myself. And here we are 7 years later. They're still my best friends. We still are constantly talking to each other, but a lot of the support that I got outside of the MSU resources that we've mentioned was through the connections that I built in my first couple days here on campus with other students. And I just love them so much and we're still great friends. So.
For me, it was really, really important to establish relationships with my advisor as well as the faculty. Just communicating back and forth with them really created those pathways and to get a lot of guidance. And Diane Donnelly was my first ever advisor. She is a legend at Montana State University, is now retired. I did see her about a year ago on campus, so maybe she's still dipping her toes in a little bit, but we remained in contact throughout my entire undergrad. And then when I became employed by Montana State University, I still had my little catch-ups with her. And so I would just say, you know, not being afraid to advocate for yourself and taking advantage of all the resources that we have on this campus. You know, we are lucky to come to work every day and do what we do. We are here to serve our students. We're all very passionate about higher education. And so I guess the little nugget of advice would be to take advantage of the resources and don't be afraid to reach out, because everybody here is here for you and would be more than happy to assist you. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. And really quick before we get on to the next couple questions that I have before 7 here, I just really want to give a lot of praise to both of you. You guys that are tuning in. It's amazing that I got to join the first generation committee. Also being a first generation student, but I never thought about it as a status that could help me and making sure that I could help myself find success, so on and so forth. And so coming to Montana State, when I learned about these different things through one of our past coworkers, Anna, who introduced me to you guys, it's just knowing how much support these students have the opportunity to have when they come to MSU, and knowing that, hey, you may have this status and you might be super, super scared, like a lot of us were when we were doing the whole thing and maybe not having the best support. Just having the two of you lead charge and get us the Treasure State Scholarship or the Next Gen Forward or different things like that. It's just really awesome to know how much of an advocate that we can have with you too. So I also have just a lot of praise for you guys through that as well. So okay, going into the fun stuff, the scholarships. So one of the frequently asked questions that we had, which was kind of touched on, but what kind of opportunities are available for non-resident students, maybe within Montana State or outside of Montana State, scholarships offered for first-gen students from out of state?
Yeah, so my personal favorite website to find scholarships on is bold.org, like BOLD. They have actually, if you type in first gen, they have quite a few scholarships specifically for first gen students. I would also recommend, although this isn't, I love scholarships. I actually find scholarships most of the day for my students there in the TRIO office. But looking into county scholarships, maybe from your home county. This is also true after you start college. I actually applied for an alumni scholarship through my county last year for my master's degree, and I got $500 because I was the only student that applied because a lot of people don't apply for these scholarships. While TRIO doesn't offer like monetary support, we're not able to help pay your bill, we're not able to offer you a scholarship. We try to find ways to cut costs in any way possible, through the free tutoring, through our free breakfast, through our community rec nights, through like other kind of ways, through our textbook program. But yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out bold.org, but also maybe looking if your parents are in a union. Sometimes unions have scholarships. Sometimes parents' jobs have scholarships. My dad works for the railroad, and I got $12,000 worth of scholarships through his job. So I got $1,500 a semester just because he worked there. And a lot of people don't know about those opportunities as well. So looking into that. And then keep an eye out for scholarships specifically for first gen students. A lot of the times you're able to just Google scholarships for first generation college students and you can find those. I know for a fact on that resource list, that scholarship list we have on the first gen resource page, there is at least 2 on there that are specific to first gen students. So checking out those 2 as well. I'm always adding new ones. So keeping your eye on that spreadsheet is, I think, really pertinent as well.
Awesome. Okay, and then, well, it's 7 o'clock, but I really wanted to ask this one question because when I saw it, I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that, and this is something that as first generation students or just any college student is like, okay, well, how do I do this? So, if you could give 2 pieces of advice on how to prepare for MSU, what would it be?
I think the first is get out of your dorm room. So like that, I know that's like getting while you're at start campus, but those first couple of days, get out of your dorm room, explore campus, like go and see where your classes are going to be so you don't get lost, because while MSU is small, some of the buildings are really confusing. Like, so getting out, seeing where you should go. I think the other thing is, for me, it was building a first semester schedule during orientation that I was excited about. So there are so many opportunities and so many classes that you can choose from, that build something that you're excited about. So if you maybe don't like a class, go to your advisor and see if there's one that you can switch out for it instead. I personally was in the honors college and I loved those courses. And the reason that I got into sociology was just because I decided to randomly take a honors sociological inquiry course. And that got me hooked. So I would say, yeah, definitely build a course that you're excited about during orientation. And while you're at orientation, make friends, get their contact info, because you're going to see them on campus in the fall. Our campus isn't that big that you won't see them. So making those connections early, I think, is really important to building that community.
I think I alluded to this in my last answer, but really making connections with the faculty and the staff here at MSU. Because if you think about it, if you do intend to move on to a post-secondary degree, a master's, you may need to have letters of recommendation. And so I think just creating those relationships with people on campus can become really important. And also get involved. We've got so many student organizations here on campus. It's great to find your people in a place where you belong, and there's always something going on. And so just, yeah, keep your ears to the ground and check out all that we have to offer.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate you guys joining in and helping our students, helping our first gen students. So for those of you guys that did tune in, again, thank you so much for giving me a little over your hour. I know we went over the 7 o'clock mark, but that last one just really resonated with me and I needed to have that. So again, this was recorded, so we're going to go ahead and get this sent out tomorrow. So if you wanted to reference anything, maybe scan QR codes. If you didn't get the chance to write our emails down, you'll be able to get all of those. So look forward to that email, and thanks everyone for joining in, and hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you at the Paying for School webinar that's happening in 2 weeks. So have a great night. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.